Last time on They Caught Me. Millionaire entrepreneur Greg Williams, described by many as a brilliant computer engineer, is murdered in his own home in the early morning hours of October 13th, 2011. His wife, Michele, is the only eyewitness to see the attack, as her daughter is asleep on the couch and never reacts to the gunshot. Michele is left with a huge knot on her face from being hit by the intruder. At least this is the story that Michele would initially tell the police. In a 6-hour interview, police peel back the rotting layers of this story, one lie at a time. In episode 1, they have found that there was no forced entry, making it difficult for Michele to explain how the masked intruder entered their home. She was also confronted about the presence of blood droplets in places that there should not be, at least based on her story. And just wait until you hear about the murder weapon. Michele will have to make up more lies to make all these puzzle pieces fit.
You ran over to him and...
Well, crawled over because I was down on the floor and I was very dizzy and disoriented, and so I crawled over to him and grabbed a hold of his hand. And at that time when I grabbed his hand, that's when I heard blood dripping, and I looked at his mouth and I saw the blood coming out of his mouth. And that's when I picked up the cell phone.
Do you recall any blood on his hand?
I don't know, but I do now recall there was blood on my cell phone. Because I'm remembering as I was doing 911 that there was some blood. And I don't know. I know I didn't pick anything up, but I don't know if I just wiped it or what. But
Do you remember, you said the officer took your cell phone number? Okay. Check on that. Okay.
yeah, that's how she called my daughter.
Call 911 first? Oh, that's how the officer called your daughter. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't call anyone. I just called 911.
Okay. Well, and see what you just told me about, you believe blood on the phone may explain the blood droplet here. Okay. And that's why.
In the ambulance I did, I don't know if you noticed, I looked down and I had a blood drop there, and that's what I was reaching at. So I did have a little bit of Greg's blood on me. Right there and on the cell phone. Because I remember when that made me cry more, when I was dialing 9 and I hit the 1 and there was blood on the cell phone.
But like I say, you don't recall going back in and looking through the room, looking for anything. At that point, you just walked out here, checked on her, and then kind of announced the front door.
Right. I didn't look anywhere besides to here and right there. I didn't go anyplace else in the room, just right there.
Okay. Well, the only other thing that I can think that's an issue we're trying to figure out is the wound. Okay. It appears he has a close proximity contact wound to the right temple. Okay. Which means basically it was either here, somewhere in this vicinity. I mean, it wasn't direct. There's not a direct powder burn. If you put something directly to someone, it does it. But it's within close range. Okay. King size bed. Okay. So, and another issue I have, like I told you, I know it's difficult. It's difficult for me to ask, but I have to try to determine these things. It's best to try to find out who was there. Is if he's laying, he's in the position he's in, that close contact wound or close proximity wound had to come from this direction. Okay, and you put this guy here at the foot of the bed. Also, it appears it might have went through a blanket, whether like a blanket or something might have been used to muffle the sound.
I don't know. That's where I saw what I saw.
Yeah.
Blood
and again, I'm just explaining to you kind of what they're telling me it says. Again, I'm not there, so I'm just again trying to determine the best between what they're telling me, what you're telling me. I'm trying to put things together, and that's kind of what it is. It's a puzzle. So that doesn't really work. And then, depending on the weapon, a lot of guns, when you fire a semi-automatic weapon, the shell casing kind of goes back over your right shoulder. Some eject directly to the right. Okay. And this one, the shell casing was laying here on the floor by the back door, which is a distance. Now I don't know. They'll give me measurements and all that stuff later. So that like I say, if the weapon was pointed this direction, the shell casing would have been over here somewhere. Okay. So, and apparently it appears to be from somewhere over this side. This area over here more likely than the foot of the bed. It's one of the discrepancies we're trying to determine. Like I say, because the casing was over here by the back door. And his positioning in the bed, I mean, pretty much sitting, and I won't say he wasn't upright completely, but laying in the bed pretty much. If he did have contact, usually a defense mechanism is, whether you set up, try to get up or something of that nature. So, especially if they're at the foot of the bed and someone's trying to confront me, I'm going to at least set up. My first reaction is to set up and see and then try to move one way or the other. So it would be very difficult to have a close contact or close impact from that angle, direct angle, and so forth. So we're trying to determine that.
Right.
So.
And that's what I'm trying to determine. Did I hear the gunshot? Did I see the person? I don't know what I saw first. And I mean, I just don't know.
I'm saying the handgun was found and the casing was found. And also the object that appears to be maybe what struck you. Okay.
Oh, fingerprinting and
yes, ma'am.
We have
a team over there doing all that right now. And basically what we do in these cases, regardless, we get the search warrant. That way there's no question. Because basically, if we do it off what we call consent to search, if you tell me I can search your car, if I don't have you right there where you can withdraw consent or tell me stop at any time, then I can't do it legally. So what we do is we get a search warrant. That way our officers may be over there all day. I don't know. But that gives us legal right to do it. Take as much time as we do. Once we're in, we can do whatever we want. We shut it down and we can take our time to do the best scene we can do, to try to make our determination what occurred.
Well, my question with that is there a way to footprint? I don't know how that works. Where that person actually walked.
Depends on what type of shoes, what they walked through, and so forth. If the grass was wet, there's certain things they can. Yes, ma'am. There's certain things. Okay. So, like I say, again, you go back to what I was talking about a while ago, what my questions are.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, other issues with the scene. Okay, the shell casing, like I told you, was there, so it means that the shot would have been fired. With his position and everything had to be fired from somewhere over here, basically. Shell casing's almost all over by the door. Okay. Also, next to the door, they found what's called a box-end wrench, a long wrench, probably silver in color, probably 12, 14 inches long. I believe might have been what struck you.
And what is that used for?
It's a tool, like some box-end, like you have a big nut, you put it on it, and it's a wrench with closed ends. I call it a box end. Basically looks like this. It's got little divots, where the sides of the nuts are. It's got little marks in it, so teeth looking thing. You can put it on a nut and turn it. It's longer than that. Just kind of demonstration there. Okay. So, and then also they found his firearm. Okay.
Did he have it?
No, it was laying here by the door too. the case shell casing, by the tool also.
This is an actual photo of the crime scene. Oh, whoever did this, they failed criminal school.
So
did.
I mean, well, here's the deal. Normally, if an actor is going to go in, find a firearm in the victim's home, discharge the firearm, shoot somebody, and flee, they're going to take the firearm with them. So, I mean, it's laying by the back door, and it looks like, again, they haven't done all the inspection and all the analysis on it, but it looks like it may have been wiped clean.
Was it what he was shot with, or was there another gun?
We don't know. This time, I mean, there's a firearm laying there with a shell casing. Now, they haven't given me all the details on what caliber casing and all that stuff is. That's other stuff that's got to be done. So, again, you see what we're trying to figure out. We put these pieces of the puzzle together. Okay. But what I see by talking to you, in my opinion, I mean, I still, and by what they're telling me the scene, and I walked in briefly but didn't get to go through everything, I mean, there's one or two things might have happened, and again, this is my opinion. One, he might have done it himself, and somebody tried to cover it up and move some items around, clean up some stuff. Okay. I mean, that's... Okay. I'm saying, I'm giving you, again, remember what the words I said. This is my opinion.
Okay, well, on the opinion, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, check my hands. You check other people's hands. You check his hands.
Yes, ma'am, they'll check his too. Yes, ma'am, they sure will. Again, I'm just asking because, and I'm not asking, I'm just giving my opinion of what, might occur, And the only reason I say that is because I've seen it in the past. And I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying that's just what I've seen in the past. It has happened. It can happen, and it has happened. So, that's something that looks like it could have. I mean, you've got possible blanket, comforter, whatever, pulled up with a hole in it, which helps muffle sound and so forth like that. Single entry wound, almost point blank, to the right temple. Usually people, if they do it themselves, it's either in the mouth or in the temple. Okay. So those are primarily points that they use. So that's another key thing, things like that. So that's why we ask questions, like I say, the last one's because she cleaned it up because life insurance wouldn't pay on a suicide. Point blank, that's all it was. So, that's why we look at all avenues. Again, I mean, things can be changed and stuff. That's why I was very specific, and repeatedly asking you questions about where you traveled, where you went, this and this and this. Okay? If I'm a bad guy and I break into your house, and, again, it's odd that they would walk, there's people in the house that walk past a child sleeping, unless they didn't see him, obviously, and go directly to a bedroom, unless they were out for one thing. If it was out for one thing to intentionally harm you or your husband, then they would have come in the room, they'd have been prepared to do that, they'd have brought something to do it, and they'd have went right to, then it would be a foot of the bed thing. It's not common for somebody to come in with intent to harm someone and go around to the side of the bed and do close contact to the temple. So.
But what if he wanted to harm but not kill? What if it was somebody angry with him? Which with so many people, and that's my baffle there is.
Right. Well, and you're probably going to come up with people before it's over with. You'll probably call us back and say, hey, you might check out. You gave me Michele Williams. Is one I've got to check out already.
And honestly, I can honestly say, I don't think he would even hurt Greg. Mm-hmm. That he is a very bad person as far as what he does and what he has done in the past. But I'm reaching here to give thoughts and ideas. I really am. And I will do research today of what I can of possibilities too. He did not kill himself. He did not. Me and Greg were very happy. And closing on the house tomorrow.
Well, and again, you secured all the doors, you said, before you went to bed.
Yeah, I always do.
So how did they access that door? I mean, deadbolt and both the knob was thrown. I mean, you said the guy struggled to go out the other door, was secure. Why did they pick that door? If you heard what you believe something in the living room, if they would have tried, now again, I don't know what's the gate on? The gate closer to your bedroom or the other side of the house?
We have gates at both spots.
Okay, so, obviously the officers are on scene will say which gate was open or not. I'm assuming there was a lot of dew on the ground, as cool as it was, probably have seen footprints in the yard. I mean, I'm not getting all that information. I'm not getting that feedback from the officers. Herein lies my problem. Again, what little I know and what details I've got and what we've talked about, and I know, what you told me, but what information I've got from the scene leads me to believe one or two things, like I told you. So, that's what I'm stuck at this point. So, if something happened that was unintentional, didn't mean to, or whatever, or he did something you tried to cover it up, please tell me now, because there's a whole lot going on right now that a lot of time and effort is going to be spent doing a lot of this investigation. And not saying you did, I'm just saying I always throw that out there. I give everybody the opportunity, and that's the deal. Because here's the point blank. Either by what I've got at the scene, either his is self-inflicted and you covered it up, or there's potential that you may be involved.
I did not hurt my husband,
okay.
And he did not hurt himself.
Okay.
There was a man in my house.
Okay.
Let's take a moment to appreciate the job that the detective is doing in this case at this point. I mean, if you look at what happened at the end of episode 1, right near the end, Michele considered asking for an attorney. Now, this is episode 2, but in actual time, in real time, in video time, this was about 40 minutes ago. And here he is coming out and basically saying, either he killed himself or you did something. And notice she's not asking for an attorney.
I understand you're saying it, and I've got it all documented. I'm going to write it all up. I'm just telling you, again, all I have is what I have, and I can just go off what the scene tells me. Okay? So, and I know it's difficult for me to ask these questions and tell you this, but I don't have much choice. Then, at this point, we've gone through the story 3-4 times. We've talked about it, and again, I'm just telling you, in my opinion, what I see from the scene, and that's all I can go off of.
But once they investigate, maybe I'm wrong as to where he's standing. You will find it.
Right, and they will. Again, that's all I'm telling you is what information I have now, Michele, that's all I can say. What I see through the investigation. I've been doing it 21 years. By what you told me in relation to what I've seen and been told at the scene, that's all I can come up with at this time. But, that's one. Again, if remotely you were or did cover up or anything, I want you, I'll give everybody the opportunity to tell me now so we can, call off the dogs basically, because there's a lot of things going on right now. While we're sitting here, there's probably 20, 25 people over there taking care of stuff.
And
they are. Okay. Well, I'll let them know that you told me that, but you had no direct involvement. I mean, again, this is why I say that. Again, I'll go over it one more time. Lay's laying there, semi-upright, which is probably how I sleep. It's right temple impact. So it had to be fired from this direction, which is your side of the bed. Okay? The gun was underneath the nightstand. Okay? The shell casing is over here. The gun's laying here. The wrench that was, we believe, alleged tool that was used to strike you is laying all right here by the back door. If I'm a bad guy and I'm going to go in, find all that stuff, shoot somebody. First of all, when I hit you with a wrench, I'm probably going to leave it where it lays. If I find the gun, I'd have to know where it would be in the house, which is uncommon. Most people don't leave them underneath the nightstand. Usually they're in a nightstand drawer, between the mattresses, or in a closet, on a closet shelf. So that's odd. And then the fact that all those things are laying by the back door, when a bad guy does that, usually if I'm going to use all those tools and flee the scene, I'm going to take them with me. So I would strike you, leave it laying there. But, you know, he didn't hear that. If Greg wouldn't have heard that, then, you know, goes and searches and happens to find the gun underneath the nightstand and gets it out, and then, you know, confronts him, whatever, you know, he's still laying in bed, which is odd. If he confronts him again by what you said, all you can recall is him at the foot of the bed. We've got a, you know, close contact or impact wound from the right side, this side of the bed. Then, and there's potentially a hole, they haven't confirmed it yet, in the blanket, which would be almost used to muffle the sound. And then you got nothing else is stolen that we're aware of at this time. And then goes to the back door, shell casing, the gun, and the wrench are all laying by the back door, and they flee out the back door. Now, have you seen any police shows? You've ever seen an incident like that occur like that? And you probably watch cop shows. Everybody watches cop shows. Even cops watch cop shows.
I don't watch much TV, but...
Well, I mean, you know, you think, you'd be in my shoes, and try to put you in my shoes. In reality, would you think a perpetrator would do that? Would leave all that stuff there? I mean, it's like evidence waiting for something to do. That's very uncommon.
And I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
And, I mean, did Greg get his gun? Did he move at all? Was he totally out? I saw him move, but all I could see was his feet. I could only see this part of the bed. So I could only see the movement. I couldn't see all of Greg. So was he reaching for his gun? Did he have it? Are there, I mean, anything. I know less than what you know.
No. And by what they're telling me, he's pretty much, or if you were asleep, just laying back in the bed, kind of semi-propped, you know, how people do to watch TV, not fully setting up. That's how. And the sheet and stuff was from on the right side, and then impact ones from here. So, I mean, like I said, if you're going to struggle with somebody, it would the bed would have been disarrayed. I mean, it looks like literally he was just asleep. That's what it looks like. But again, these three items right here don't match up. And again, if someone came to intentionally harm you or him, they would have brought their own weapon or tool. But
so what all is that? That's the wrench thing you talked about. And
well, I believe the wrench might be something they use to strike you with. Be assumption. Again, you know, they said it's, you know, yay long, 14, 16 inches long. It's got round ends on each end. Like I say, it's similar to this. Like I say, it's all, you know, got little divots in here, so you can stick a nut, you know, over a nut and turn it to loosen or tighten it. These are different size ends.
And have
ends.
y'all checked Greg's tools?
Well, that's part. Well, first of all, we had to get the search warrant and do all that. And yes, ma'am, they are going to do all that. Yeah, and that's why, again, the details you're giving me, I'm making phone calls and telling them, you know, hey, he's got a toolbox, but he usually keeps it locked. It's in the garage. He's not a tool guy, so there shouldn't be tools laying all out through the house. You know, hey, she's got 2 small toolboxes, but nothing. I would assume you don't have a 14-inch opening or box-in wrench in your toolbox.
No, that's why, you know, even him, I don't think he has any big tool. You know,
it's got a brand on it, I'm sure. Most of them, you know, whether it's made in Taiwan, Craftsman, or whatever, so they'll be able to determine if it's out of his collection or not. You know, because obviously if it is, then they had to go into the garage before they got into the house.
Right.
Okay, is there keys to the house inside the cars? Or a spare key in the garage?
To what? I'm sorry.
Is there spare keys to the house inside the garage or inside your vehicle? You don't leave a spare key in the vehicle?
Sometimes we leave our keys in our vehicles.
Okay. So, I mean, there's things they're going to look, and that's why I'm asking, you know. So if your keys in your vehicle, obviously your key ring's there, which means you've got a house key on it. Okay. That's another thing I need to call and tell them. Again, 20 years, bad guys come in and do stuff. If they bring their own tools, they take their own tools. I mean, the only time I've ever seen them leave a tool is if it's a pry door to go in and steal something like a refrigerator, washer, dryer, stove, and they just forget it when they go out the door. Or somebody that does criminal mischief drives by and throws a rock through the window. Other than that, they take their tool of choice with them. So, it just doesn't add up. But you're telling me, and I know people in prior history with steroids, anger and issues and personal issues, I mean, look like that. But by what you're telling me, he would have no reason to inflict any harm to himself. I mean, it sounds like a lot of things were laid out, everything's going great, but again, I mean, with taking, steroids, a lot of times people just flip.
He said he stopped some a couple of weeks ago.
Well, they probably finished the cycle and he's just taking this, they do it for so long and they get off and they're off for 2 or 3 weeks or, then they go back on the cycle. I mean, that's typical. They take small white pills, D-ball, and they inject steroids straight, testosterone straight in their system.
He was struggling with sleep apnea really bad, and it seemed like it was worse recently, and I asked him what he's changed. He said nothing, and I said, then what was that money for? And he said, okay, it was the steroids. It's in the fridge. And he said he was going to stop it, though.
So all I can do is ask you one time point blank. So he didn't self-inflict any bodily harm to himself, and you didn't try to cover it up?
No.
And you don't have a clue about how that stuff got in those positions by the door or anything like that then?
No, I have no clue.
And you know how these cases go. I mean, this is not, that's just part of it. They'll have to pull the cramps and everything. I mean, the only other thing that could have happened, honestly, could have happened, is if you might have done it.
I did not.
And again, I'm saying, this is just opinion because, through the blanket, close contact from your side of the bed, the stuff's all set here. All you gotta do is open one back door, open another back door, and it looks, and basically it's a scene. Nothing else in the house has been touched. Okay? And I'm saying again, in my opinion, through 21 years, what I can see here, what little knowledge I have, that's all I can say one of the two things will happen. One of those two things, Michelle.
Not hurt my sister.
Ma'am?
I did not hurt my sister.
But again, that's what it's telling me. I mean, either he self-inflicted, self-injured himself, and you try to help cover it up, or you might have been involved in it by the way the scene looks. And there's nothing else I can say. That's point blank all I can do. Well, if either one of those are true, I want you to tell me now. This is the time to come forward with anything like that, because this is the opportunity. Because right now it's all low key, it's being done. If it all is a big process, and it's all going to be a lot different because there's 25 people probably at your house right now.
But that's how I'll figure it out.
And I'm telling you, that's what they're there for. I mean, they're figuring it out. I'm just telling you what knowledge I have right now. That's all I can tell you. One of the two things could happen. Either, again, self-inflicted by him, and you try to cover it up by placing the things and open the doors, or, the thing that shows me that, again, close contact from that angle, everything was normal. Greg's right-handed, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You right-handed?
Yes.
Okay. So, right-handed, right temple, most suicides are either in the mouth or whichever hand they are. It's right side, close contact. I mean, most people don't just go, but, suicides do. Some are out here. Done it. But, I mean, that's what it looks like. I mean, if I didn't have these items here and these two doors open, I'd say he probably turn on the scene. Okay. Now, if I go off that avenue, then somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody had to move all this stuff and open those doors. Would you say that? If you're looking at my shoes. So that's where I'm at. So either that happened and somebody moved the gun and stuff, which means you'd have to self-inflict a wound on your cheek and then open 2 doors. That's all it is. And call 911. TV's blaring. Hey, I don't know. You're saying it's natural. Trust me, I watch TV at night, but I sure couldn't watch it that loud.
You can even check with the living nanny that used to live with us.
Okay.
And
but
it was loud, and I always heard Michele. And
like I say, but that's what one theory is, and the other theory is, you would have had it done and set the scene up.
I did not do it.
Okay. Again, I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying that's what the theories are right now, based on what information we have. But that's why I'm telling you, because you and I have been together now for about 2.5, 3 hours, that if you know any more, if you moved anything like that, involved in anything, if you did self-inflicted, you moved stuff, please tell me now. If you did it yourself, worst case scenario, you need to tell me right now.
I didn't know.
Okay. Again, I'm not accusing you. I'm just asking. I'm just telling you that's what the theory is, and I'm saying if you did, this is opportunity to come forward and talk to me. If he self-inflicted himself and you set up that scene, please tell me now.
There was somebody else in the house.
Okay.
There was somebody else there.
Okay. And I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm just saying.
What if? What if?
Mm-hmm. What if?
What if?
Now, the story is tragic and sad, but what she's about to say, it's funny as hell.
He wanted to kill himself. I know he didn't. I know. What if he wanted help?
What if he wanted help?
Not me. What if there was somebody else in the house? I'm telling you, there was somebody in the house and he hit me. Okay?
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
What if? Why did he want to kill himself? There's no way. What if he did?
What if he did?
And he wanted to set it up for me. He's always said, "You are taken care of no matter what. You're taken care of no matter what." Because I see what you're saying. I'm not stupid. I understand it.
I know you're not, and that's why I know I'm not sitting on the floor like a kid trying to explain to you.
I fell asleep before him. I always fall asleep before him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I lock doors. I check everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reaching at the straws here. There was a man in the house.
So you're saying that you think Greg might have set this up, done it to himself, and the man might have helped cover it up? That's what you're saying?
I'm reaching, yes, but I'm asking. I see what you're saying.
Why would you say you think he would want to harm himself?
I'm not. You're saying it, and so I'm going with what you're saying as a scenario, because I did not hurt my husband. I did not cover at the scene. I've just been told my husband is dead.
I understand that.
I got hit. My daughter is not with me. This is very stressful. So now I'm really reaching. I'm giving you names of people that probably have nothing to do with anything, okay?
Well, and you gave me, like I say, the people that you met that Kathy said was her quote-unquote family, that, and you said, Greg said, hey, yeah, I'm an asshole. And then you gave me Michael, specific people. And then you gave me names. And like I say, we'll follow up on that. But again, that's why I ask specific questions. Like I say, when's the last time you touched that gun and everything? Because crime scene is going to show. I mean, it will be obvious how it came out. They'll be able to tell me if that gun was directly up against his head, 2 inches or 2 foot. They'll be able to tell me that distance. Okay.
I have
physical
not.
from a medical examiner and crime scene details.
I haven't touched the gun in over a year. Oh, maybe even 2, and I touched it 2 or 3 times. That was his. It was.
So and again, I have to ask those questions because if you touched any of that stuff, if you moved anything, if you did anything, that's why I asked earlier. You sure you just went here? It didn't go over here. You said no. I want to make sure because Michelle's print should not be on that gun.
Right. And
Michelle's print should not be on that wrench. Michelle's print should not be on that shell casing.
And it won't be. I had no idea what was over here without you telling me this. There was a man in the house. If anything happened, as you're saying, and it was suicide, and it was set up, it was done too. There's no way Greg wanted to die. He had too much going. Business was great, busy as hell. He always said he hates his job, but he really didn't. He loved the pressure and the stress. And
is that more pressure and stress here recently? More clients, more busy now here recently?
yes, and we're about to buy the house, and even though it's approved and everything, he gets really stressed right before spending money, right before signing contracts. And but
I'm sure he also has kind of a personal side, but his demeanor hadn't changed, nothing out of the ordinary recently that would lead you to believe. And again, anything.
Yeah, lately he's been more aggravated and yelling, and Steve's gotten the really bad end of him lately. He yells and screams a lot, more work related. And
you think that has to do with just the job performance, or has to do with steroids?
Long time ago, when he gets that way, I blamed it on steroids. But even off steroids, he's that way. So I don't think it was that. Work's been a lot. It's been. He's bringing in like $50,000 to $75,000 a month with him and 2 other guys, and one guy is really young and new, and Steve's sweet as hell, but not very good. So Greg has to. He's basically a one-man band, and but he's happy. I mean, he just told me last night, I hate my fucking job. And I joked around about that's not very motivational for someone who you just bring into the field, and it's all a joke. But he did. He says it all the time. He hates his job. He hates how it is because he works 24/7. And he told him I should have been a painter. He just said that last night. Should have been a painter instead of an IT guy. But anyone that knows or knew Greg always said he's tried for that. If it was calm and easy, he wasn't happy.
Bored too easy.
Yes, very bored very easily. If he's not totally busy and totally stressed all the time, he's not Greg. He's not happy. And lately, I've been talking to him about his health because his breathing at night before the sinus infection. His breathing at night.
Has he seen a doctor or anything?
No, he hasn't seen a doctor.
That you know of, or that you're sure?
That I know of. We've been together 6 years, and he's never gone to a doctor ever. And he's had dizzy spells and passing out some. And I've talked to Steve and Keith about it a little bit because there was one day that he just literally passed out like 2 weeks ago. Keith was talking to him on the phone. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. And Greg doesn't sleep during the day. And it wasn't sleep. It was passed out. And they got back to the house from a job around 7:30, and they said, yeah, that's weird. I was talking to Greg, and he sounded like he fell asleep on the phone. Is he okay? I said, no, he's not okay, but he won't go see a doctor. And I didn't know if it was blood pressure. He had said that his dad always got real bad dizzy spells and everything with blood pressure being high, but I couldn't get Craig to go see a doctor. And the past 3 weeks or so, his health was, I kept telling everyone there's something wrong, and Steve said, yeah.
Well, it'll be the first time I know somebody went to the doctor and found out bad news and did something, harmed himself either. But again, by the scene, if he harmed himself, somebody tried to cover it up. That's the easiest way to put it. I mean, and you can see my point, like I said, cover whether it was the gun, the weapon, that, and everything there. I mean, I don't know that, you would think though if he's going to do it, A, he wouldn't have you and the child in the house, and B, if he had somebody involved in it to come help him, they wouldn't strike you with a tool to help it. So
they want me totally out of it. I don't mean out of it as a knocked out, but out of responsibility. Greg?
You know that gate's monitored. Well, somebody had to get in and out of there, so if somebody drove in, somebody drove out, that will be determined. Right. If, that's another thing. So, but you're saying you were here, this guy was here with the gunfire and he left the door, you said. And you had nothing to do with it?
I have nothing.
You didn't try to cover up the scene, move the gun or anything, touch the gun, touch the wrench, or anything of that nature?
No, I did not touch anything. I had nothing to do with whatever happened in there.
Okay. Like I told you before, this is an opportunity. If you did, I'd rather you tell me now, because if I find out you were involved in it later, obviously it's a totally different scenario.
I did not.
Okay. And again,
you won't find that out because I didn't do anything to my husband.
Okay. Let me make one more call and make sure there's nothing before we get somebody come get you.
The detective is ramping up the accusations, and it's just a matter of time before Michele cracks.
All right, I got some more information. Talk to some more people about the scene. Anything else you can think of? One, you made a comment earlier that what if he set somebody up or did something like that, and you didn't do anything to him. I mean, a lot of times when people make those statements, it's either they didn't do it or they set it up or they knew somebody who might have done it. So, anybody you think might have done it?
No.
Okay. Well, here's some more issues I was given a while ago. You know what canine is? Police canine? Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll have police canine come out to your backyard, search and try to track a tracking dog. When they went out there, both your gates dummy locked, which means the lock's through, but it's not locked, obviously. There's no way that anybody would have got in or out of the backyard, assumingly. They did put a dog in your backyard, didn't track anything. So nobody in or out of those doors went out of the backyard. It will track it. That dog is exceptional. We've used him before and I've seen it. The door that you're saying, as far as the door leading by your office, yeah, they found some prime marks, but the prime marks, talking to the crime scene investigator, the only way those prime marks could have been put on that door, the door would have been open, not closed when it was done. And then the fact that the screwdriver that was alleged might have been used for that was laying outside the door that the alleged perpetrator exited from her master bedroom. Okay?
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, unless the visible ghost came in that back door and came in your house and went out that other back door, nobody was there. That dog is trained and certified to do that. Okay? You've got to be honest with me here. I mean, those facts and everything, Michelle, don't add up. Okay? The stuff laying by the door doesn't add up. Now I have even more reason to believe that something else occurred. So you're gonna have to sit there and tell me what happened. Okay? Because there's no way that could have occurred that way. No way in God's green earth that could have occurred that way. So, for the sake of everybody, wanting to know, obviously, there's no way that could have occurred. There's no other way I can put it black and white. The gates, he ran out your back door in your master bathroom, the bedroom, and went out and dropped the screw, after he dropped the gun, the casing, and the wrench, then opened the door and left, and then left the screwdriver outside by the pool. When he went out that door, went to the gate, he had to dummy lock the gate after he went through the fence.
You've gone over the fence? I've never, I don't know.
Well, the officers thought that's a pretty tall fence. That's a pretty tall fence. And trust me, if there was somebody in that backyard, that dog would have hit on it. Trust me, that dog would have hit on it. So, I mean, between the things with all the scene in the bedroom, and knowing all that information, I mean, you know what happened. You know what happened. Either he self-inflicted or you did something. He did self-inflicted, you try to cover it up. For insurance reasons, what, I don't know. Okay, that's another issue that I don't have nothing to do with. Or you either did it yourself or something. So you need to tell me. If he self-inflicted it, you need to tell me. I mean, this is it. We're getting the wits end. You've got to be honest with me, Michelle. If he did it and you covered it up, just tell me. Huh? Okay. You want to tell me the story, what really happened now?
And I just need you to know. It has nothing to do with the insurance. It has to do with his respect and what everybody knows him. And I don't care about a penny.
But here's different things. Insurance have different things and different clauses. That's a different issue. We can deal with that. But you've got to tell me the truth. Okay? Take your second. Okay, take your second to relax, okay? Take your second, relax, okay?
We just went through this a year ago, and he said he was so stupid, such a stupid person for killing himself, right? I wasn't in the bedroom.
Sleeping on the
I
couch
was on the couch with Michele. It wasn't feeling good. She got a history call. And Greg was still awake.
Michaela got up or you got up?
Michele got up.
Okay.
Came to the room. And Greg was still awake. And he was complaining that he just needed it quiet in there, but the TV was just blaring. So I took him back out there. That's why I knew it was after 4 or something.
Take your time.
And please, just a little bit.
Okay. Try to relax. Relax and calm down. Okay.
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But all the business people, they seemed like this very reputable person. He's been really not okay. I had to do this major impromptu within seconds.
You talking about the scene? Okay. So tell
The time marks on the door were there. I utilized that some because they weren't there. They've been there. And I was in the living room with, which, just so you know, I do hear her no matter how loud the TV is, and he always had it loud, but I was already in the living room with me. I couldn't let her know this.
do what?
A little after 4.
Uh-huh.
I was hearing stuff, and I walked in to check on him and told him to go back in there. It doesn't feel good, and to just leave him alone. And he seldom told me to leave him alone, but he'd just leave me alone. Well, it's the middle of the night, and I was fine, forget you. I said, I left him alone.
Wow.
I heard the good shot.
All right, take your time.
And deep in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, somebody came in. He freaked out. Somebody came in. I'm walking over. I'm getting look at him. There's blood everywhere. I took some Clorox wipes. I use Clorox wipes. I use Clorox wipes all over my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had already cleaned up the whole house, so I knew it smelled like Clorox, so it wasn't. Oh, give me a minute. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Good.
I scratched his hand. Dried it off.
Dry it off with a towel.
I went toilet paper and flushed it. And I wiped the gun. With the blanket that he had right there. And I set it down. Then I had to figure out what the hell to do at that point.
You put the gun by the door?
I opened the door up the gun by the door. Because if it was sitting by him, of course it would.
What about the shell casing?
I don't have a clue where that is or was or went.
You never touched it?
I never touched it at all.
What about the wrench?
And the wrench I actually had just come across in our backyard. couple of days ago, I had it sitting on the lunch room counter, wondering where it came from. That was just a very spur-of-the-moment, coincidental thought of there has to be some kind of weapon. There has to be a reason why somebody came in the house. It has to all make sense. Which the more you talk, the more I realize that I'm so not a criminal because
It don't make sense.
it makes Then, in order to make some sense, I had to have an injury that I didn't mean for it to cause, and then for it to be this little bruise. I was so big, and I just sent myself, and I sent myself too hard.
What's that wrench?
It's a wrench.
Good.
I went back and opened up the back door, and while doing this, I was calling 911 at hopes that somebody could still keep him alive, but I knew he wouldn't. But I was trying instantly to get 911 there as I'm running around like a fool trying to.
Was Michaela still in the living room all this time? Did she sleep?
She was asleep. She didn't wake up until the cops came and actually carried her out to me, so she never saw me.
Was the TV still on in the back bedroom? Did you turn it off?
No, everything was just like it was with that. He had it on. And it comes on a timer. Like I said, I don't know when, and so I knew he had still been up because he would have had to hit another show to keep it going because of Netflix. So I still heard the TV, so that's when I checked on him. And he's never been like, just go, leave me alone. Just, I need some time. And he always kept the gun right under the nightstand, and it used to always be locked up.
Do you want me to call somebody to come up here with you, be with you? Who would you like me to call?
Steve McSwain.
Call Steve?
Yeah.
This is his phone number.
It's in my cell phone. I don't remember the phone number.
I don't know if we're off to check your cell phone still or what, so. You don't know it though?
No, I should, but I don't.
You know where he lives?
He's in Flower Mound, but he was probably outside the gates waiting to get in.
Let me go call him and see if he's around and get him to come up here, okay? Is that who you want though? Is that who you want with you? Who do you want here to be by your side right now? You want Steve?
Yeah, because my daughter needs to stay with Taylor.
Michelle, I know it's a difficult time, but trust me, you could not keep that inside, okay? And when it's all over, good. I'll say that you'll do a lot better than you were able to come out and tell the truth, okay? Because I could tell by the look on your face and your expressions that, you want to tell me something.
Why would someone take that? Why?
Some people do it for medical reasons. They don't want to suffer. We deal with that a lot. Some don't want to go to jail. We've had them do that, about his medical, and you said, well, as far as you knew he had, you know, maybe he knew something we didn't know. Okay? Maybe he knew something we didn't know. And maybe it wasn't getting any better, maybe he thought, you know, stuff he's been putting you through or something, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the family, so, okay. You know, we try to get a hold of Steve or Andrew or who? Who's Andrew O'Brien?
Oh, that's my son, but, did he call? Oh, he's in Illinois the last I heard he was here.
Well,
so
he's called, I don't know if he, so, you want me to try to find Steve?
Steve or Leo O'Brien, I don't know. Oh,
Do you have a phone?
Start with Steve.
I don't have a number, I'll just try to find it.
Yeah, if someone can find my phone.
Okay.
It's under Steve McSwain.
And if I can't get a hold of him, who would you prefer?
You'll be able to get a hold of him.
Well, if I can't find your phone, I'll
what numbers do I know? I can't think of any.
Sorry. Well, I'm not going to track down some numbers. You said he lives in Flower Mound.
And then it's not under, it's his father's house. 214-55330. Oh, come on, help.
Let me see if I can sit out there and call it and find it, and you think about it, okay?
Okay.
Figure it out later. Just to get you something great. All right. Yeah, no, actually, but it was his phone, and I left a message for him. I do have a couple more tidbit things. Okay. Did you actually do any prying on that back door to make it look like?
No,
You know, saying the door by your office? Did you actually go outside and pry, or inside? Did you inside or outside?
I tried on the outside and I couldn't do anything, so I did on the inside, but I just had a matter of a second because I was already coming in 911. So I gave up with more of the damage that's there has been there. It was like there was problems with the door.
Okay. Is that the screwdriver they found outside the back?
Yeah. And if anything else was found out, my God, it's old. That's the only thing that I tossed out there.
Anything else you can think about?
Let me recap here.
Well, do you want me to kind of review it?
Yeah.
Basically, Michele didn't feel well. I mean, I'm assuming the story's correct on the choir and all that stuff prior to that night.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, she's probably. So y'all got home, he was eating in bed, you were in with Michele, you cleaned up the house and so forth. Michele wasn't feeling well, so you were on the couch with her.
Right.
You said earlier she got up.
She came towards the room, but I heard her at about 3 a.m. I heard her.
So you were in the bedroom?
Yeah.
So you were actually in the bedroom?
Yeah.
At 3?
At 3, yeah.
Okay. And then you went onto the couch. She came in there, you heard her, you went out there.
Right. And Greg was still awake. And he had taken at least 3 or 4 Tylenol PMs.
Okay.
But he's done that the past few nights, and I get telling him that's too much, just because he takes a couple of other sleeping pills too. And I don't know where that I just need to sleep. And so he took those at about 1-ish, and I fell asleep, and he was still awake. at 3 when Michaela came towards the bedroom. Thank you. And are you okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am. She never even got all the way to the bedroom. I heard her and I looked at him and I could see he was awake, and so I met her right past the door and I said, let's go in there, Daddy doesn't feel good. And so I took her back to the couch, and that was a very common thing. She's just now 4. It was a very normal situation. Me laying down with her in the middle of the night until she fell back asleep. And usually I would stay awake until she fell asleep and I'd go back to my bed. But I've been taking medicine for sinus problems too, and I hadn't been sleeping good, so I fell right back to sleep on the couch with her, which wasn't out of the ordinary either. And the gunshot is what totally freaks me out.
Was your phone, all the other details you gave besides that was correct?
Yeah.
So you ran in, okay, you ran in there, saw him, like, oh crap, what I do? You went and got the Clorox.
Yeah, I have Clorox wipes everywhere in the house. And
Okay.
anywhere they look, they will find under everything that Clorox
Okay.
wipes. So,
And then you used that, I guess the gun was laying there, so you took it, cleaned his hand, took toilet paper, dried his hand. What did you do with the Clorox cloths?
they're in the toilet.
You flushed them too? Okay.
Yeah, they're just, they're
And the toilet paper, and flushed it.
Yeah,
And then you grabbed the gun, you said you set it by the door.
right.
Okay, then I'm trying to get in order what you did. You did that first. And
Yeah,
then
I moved the gun right away because at that point,
you said, okay.
I
Before you
didn't
cleaned
know.
his hand?
No.
Oh.
I cleaned him up. I took the gun right away, wiped it off,
With?
toilet paper.
You said,
I used everything. I used Clorox wipes and toilet paper on his hand. I used toilet paper on the gun.
well, like you said earlier, you put it on the comforter or whatever. Wiped on the comforter.
Yeah, maybe I did. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So
I am very foggy with this.
yeah. And the gun? Okay,
That's right, because he had the comforter up. I pulled it down some, and that's when I really freaked out because that's when I could see, and that's when I turned away. So yeah, I used that, and actually I used the comforter a bit on his hands too. At that point, I already had the Clorox wipes, comforter, and then I used toilet paper too because I needed something that I can flush and get rid of. Moved the gun. Never saw the casing. Moved the gun. And then I started to really panic because I'm thinking, okay, now what do I do with that? So the gun's over there. And I knew I had to make it look as if it was a burglary. So I opened up that door, and then I realized, well, okay, that door doesn't have anything. And I knew the other door we had just commented the other day because the key had gotten set. Oh, everything that I told you, almost so much is true that I was able to use that to do what I did because the key had gotten stuck. One day, we actually was trying to pry because we couldn't get in or out with it. So we were trying to at least pop the door open. So we actually did more of that damage there. And then with it open, we were trying, well, me and Michaela, trying to be able to get the key out. So we did some damage with that particular screwdriver. And because I have miscellaneous junky little tools on it. So that's when I went and got that screwdriver.
Which was in your toolbox?
Which was in my toolbox in the laundry room.
Okay.
And that's when I saw it. At that point, I still hadn't thought of me and looking like, oh gosh, you couldn't help him for nothing because she was injured. But on the counter was the big wrench thing. And like I said, it was in the backyard. I don't know if it's been in the backyard for whatever. I cleaned it up for Michaela's birthday party and found it out there. I put it there. And So I took that and thought, that's pretty damn heavy. Maybe that could be. My first intention, honestly, was that was the person's weapon, just in case someone snuck up on them. You know, I was thinking, okay, he didn't have a gun, he didn't have this or that. He just had a tool because he was robbing us. But then I also knew I didn't have enough time for it to be a robbery, so I had to make it look like I caught him off guard coming out. But like I said, I went like that thinking I'll just have a little bruise, and that really backfired bad. And so I put that over on the floor too. I mean, I did all this in a matter of maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Everything I touched was with toilet paper, and I wiped off because I wanted to be able to flush. And I'm forgetting.
When did you actually try to call 911 this year?
As I was wiping his hands, because I wanted the chance of him being able to live.
So you hear sirens coming, and you're still
And I'm still
trying to cover.
That's why it didn't come out very good, because it was probably, that part of it was probably done in a minute and a half, running through the house, and spur of the moment, impromptu. If anyone knew that Craig actually tried to kill himself, because we did just go through this. And
well, you say you just went through this a year ago. December, y'all living in Colleyville.
We were living in Colleyville, and my brother-in-law, which is Greg's brother-in-law too.
Oh, just that incident was him with your company truck.
Yeah.
Okay, you talking about that? I thought you meant Greg.
No, and Greg, I mean, even just the other day, you know, I start thinking, because Bryn gave us flags, and we didn't listen. And so I'm thinking back, it's like, you know what, Greg said the other day, you know, what an idiot. He took, just yesterday, or the day before, we moved a piano out of our house that, we gave to Steve to give to the church. It was an old piano. We tried selling it a long time ago. We're moving, and we didn't want to move it again. So we donated it to Steve, to the church. Well, it was in our formal living room, and on the piano was my little memory of Bryn. I had pictures and the whole memory thing, and Greg just said, when he took everything off, and he said, "Boxes up. Such an idiot. I'm so pissed at him." Who the hell takes their own life? And I mean, he said all that 2 days ago, and he said, "Don't display it at our new house." And later on that day, he said, "Well, maybe display it a little bit. You know, maybe he can help." You know, kind of like he just totally changed his mind on that. And you know, Bryn gave us warning signs. Bryn had tried to kill himself with pills a couple of years back. Me and Greg found him and saved his life in a truck. He was so mad that we saved his life. Then he seemed good. Then he said a couple of months before killing himself, he said, "Yeah, if I'm ever going to try that again, I'm going to put a bullet through my brain so that nobody can save me." And we told him it's not funny. You know, he said, "I'll blow my brains out so no one can save me." And we told him it's not funny. You know, so he gave us the warning signs. He told us he's going to do this. So now I'm sitting here thinking, well, you know, okay.
Is that how Bryn did it?
He blew his brains out. But I don't know how he did it right there. He had very long arms, is what the cops were saying. But in our
like I told you earlier, there's 2 places usually. You know, one's temple and the other's in the mouth. Honestly, usually. Okay. What I've got to get from you, though, is to get you to put that in writing, what really occurred. Okay, we went through several hours of other information, so the clock's off, obviously. 10:49. How much education have you? Graduate college, high school, some college?
Some college.
How many years?
1. And then I've got a certification in dental
this is basically a voluntary statement, and I'm just going to go through what it says and everything. And I'll explain everything and why it's the way it is. Dates today, place, color, PD, time started 10:49. Again, that clock's a little fast. I understand Michele Williams and, oops, how old you, miss?
42.
42 years of age, and have been born on, oops, put the wrong thing there. Today. Kington, Jacob Avenue, Keller, phone number, I just put your cell, work, I left blank, obviously. It says, our prior making any statements have been duly warned by Jay McGrew, which is myself, the person to whom the statement is made. Any statement I make may be used against me in my trial. Any statement I make may be used against me as evidence in court, that I have the right to have a lawyer present to advise me prior to and during questioning. That if I employ a lawyer, I have a right to have a lawyer appointed to advise me prior to and during questioning. That I may obtain my own lawyer, have a lawyer appointed free of charge. In the event that I want an attorney appointed, I'll be asked to complete a written form that contains questions about my financial resources. That will be provided with the forms needed to make a request for an attorney and provide any assistance that I may need in completing the forms. And that I have the right to terminate the interview at any time. Having been informed of these, my rights, and understand the same, I hereby freely, intelligently, voluntarily, knowingly waive these rights, and not desiring a lawyer, voluntarily choose to make the following statement. I read, write, and understand the English language. I've had roughly 14 years of education. Okay, and I'll explain to you why these are read to you. Basically, it's never, what occurred, okay, is called tampering with evidence. That's not the point here, but because it is a criminal act, you're not being arrested and charged with it. It's not a criminal act, but because it is a criminal offense, I have to read you your rights and explain those to you first. Okay. Our main concern is the truth, what happened. That's the whole thing. I just want you to tell me, basically, from, I don't know, I guess, I don't need to know all this choir and all that because I'm going to write all that up. But, basically, you were in bed with him at about 3 o'clock. Your daughter came in, you went in there with her. What you heard, what you did, that you wiped down, that you flushed the stuff and so forth, and that's all and that you called call 911 and so forth. Where you got the tools, where you put the tools, how you did the doors. You said you attempted to pry the lower door. Anyway, because that's going to help. We're going to be able to corroborate your statement with everything we did on the scene because guys are still there and will be there for a while. Okay? So, Stephen is supposed to be calling the other officer instead of me. I'm going to try to call him again. And I was going to step out once you write that.
So I'm not arrested for this?
You're going home.
During the 6-hour interview, Michele would change her story several times, eventually settling on the story that Greg did this to himself. Several interesting things happened between this interview and her trial. She would reportedly ask family members to help frame Greg's ex-wife, Kathy, pushing a new claim that maybe she had something to do with Greg's murder. The most notable event would be that Michele initially accepted a plea deal that would only require her to serve about 18 years. But Michele, she has a big mouth that loves to lie. And after speaking on national TV and stating that she was actually innocent, the prosecution took back that plea deal and off to trial we went. When a jury convicted her for the crime, it would result in more than the original 18 years. How about a hard 60? Maybe when she's 75 and has a chance for parole, she will grab her grandchildren and teach them all the lessons that she will learn over the next 30 years. If you enjoyed this episode, consider hitting the like button. Thank you for watching. They Caught Me. Till next time.